I'll be right back. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Cobell.
I remember when I read that on the page that I call her Ms. Cobell, I like dropped the script and walked across the room. I was like, no, 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 no.
Hi there, I'm Ben Stiller, and I'm the executive producer and one of the directors of Severance.
My name is Adam Scott. I play Mark.
My name is Britt Lauer. I play Helly R.
My name is Tramel Tillman, and I play Milchek.
I'm Jessica Lee Gagne, the cinematographer.
I'm Jeff Richmond, and I'm the editor.
And this is Variety's Making a Scene.
The goddamn OTC's been triggered.
What? That's not possible.
Get to the security office and shut it off now. Shit.
I never knew that the last episode would be such a focal point of the show. I mean, someone who's been around for a while making stuff, but people really do care about where you take a story in a series, and the idea of being able to satisfy the commitment people have made to watching the season, but then also leaving questions for the next season. That balance is really important.
Everything's sort of been building towards this moment where these three get to open the door to the outside world and have this question answered, this mystery revealed to them. They've never looked at the sky before, let alone been in the outside and had to kind of keep up this facade of being someone else.
It really hits the fan in this episode. We saw Milchek really unravel. This is a guy who is used to being in control and knows how to get what he wants. And now here we are, and it's all falling apart. So the big challenge was making sure that I fought to get what I wanted.
If the finale works for people, I think it's because the writing is there in terms of really trying to address all these questions that have been posed during the season. Not necessarily answer all of them, but answer enough of them.
You know, the audience ended up having lots of questions by the time episode 9 rolled around, but so did the characters.
Really not up until when we aired the finale was I don't even think then I was confident that people would be totally satisfied with it.
You know, it tracks with this show because there's cliffhanger after cliffhanger after cliffhanger, and the stakes just get higher and higher. I was absolutely engrossed in it, and I was enraged. You know, I remember reading on my laptop and seeing that I only had a couple pages left. And I said, wait a minute, they're not going to end the finale like this. This is not how it's going to go down. And then it ends the way it does with me tackling and Adam like screaming to the top of his lungs. And I'm like, no. I was absolutely floored.
I remember my heart was pounding while I was reading the script, which I don't think has ever happened to me in my career. Where I got to the end and gasped. I was desperate for more, just like the audience is right now.
I confer upon you the advanced role of department chief. Congratulations. A handshake is available upon request.
Thank you. May I have a handshake?
We didn't shoot the season in order, episode by episode. We shot it like a movie. And because of COVID and because of weather and because of all sorts of scheduling issues over the course of the shoot, we had to change things around a lot.
It was really tricky. Not only were we going from one episode to another, we were also going from one director to another, the entire crew. There were days where we were doing half a day with Aoife and half a day with Ben.
It helped on episode 9 that we knew stylistically we were going to go for this idea of being very, very subjective. And that sort of was different than anything I think we had done in the show up to that point.
For episode 9, which is such a flow episode, we were changing the language completely of the show for those scenes in that episode.
Every time we got to an episode 9 scene, it was almost much clearer in terms of how we had to shoot it and what we had to do and how to prep it even.
But what indeed is you?
Good luck tonight.
It's great to meet you, Helena.
Pretty early on, Ben told me the idea he had for executing it, which is this one continuous flow through the episode. When we were cutting, we were always aware of the movement of the camera and like always trying to keep the camera alive, basically.
Originally, and the first idea I had was, it would be great if this could all be one shot. Can it all be one shot? Because we're with them and let's keep the continuity of that. And very quickly I realized that was impossible to do it in one shot. How are you going to do that? How are you going to see their faces and then also see their POV?
That was also a completely different feeling on set. We were now, it was almost like we're making an action thriller all of a sudden.
In addition to just choosing takes based on performance, the camera was as much a performer so that it's always kind of flowing.
We went with Steadicam in the end, which is really untraditional for us because Ben and I actually both usually dislike doing Steadicam. It's not our medium, it's not our language, but it was the language for episode 9 that made the most sense because it could connect the camera to the actor.
My hope was every time we go into a scene, I just try to set up a shot that could go as long as it possibly could go. It was kind of like trusting that we just were going to figure out our own language for this that wouldn't be associated with some other specific look that has been done before. So it's simple, trying to keep it simple. And then we started to play with this idea of these Fritz cuts.
What there basically is just like random intervals of like 1 and 2 frame edits that go back and forth between the outgoing scene and the incoming scene.
It was something that just tied in for us in a way that we thought, okay, we can go between the consciousness of the 3 characters, even though they're not connected. We should connect them as, for an audience.
It's actually not a sound effect. It's a piece of the score. Like even in the title sequence, that like final image of Mark, Innie and Outie Mark on the bed, it's like that. And that is both visual and also an element that's in the score that Teddy wrote into the individual stems of a lot of the cues that he wrote. So we took that element from one of his cues, then just did like a little back and forth that sort of like has this severed feeling.
It ended up being really fun because it was not planned ahead of time at all in terms of the visual transitions.
It almost accidentally created these really cool transitions that we didn't expect when we were moving the scenes around.
You'd push into Irving's closet and the door was dark, and then it Fritz cuts to Helly coming out from the dark door into the gala. And it ends up looking like an interesting visual, almost thought out transition that was totally not.
And that just kind of helped keep this feeling of like everything being one continuous scene, almost like one uninterrupted flow.
So Severance is kind of a combination of 2 main different aesthetics, an aesthetic that you find in the MDR underground world, and then an aesthetic that you find on the outside world where people are unsevered. And then you have like this weird intersection of those worlds, and that's the elevator or transitional scenes where people are going from the Innie to the Outie.
I always thought of Innie as being just a subtraction from Outie, because Outie has all this 40 odd years of life experience, and Innie is 2.5 years old for all intents and purposes. So it was just sort of a quick turnover internally, an internal shift.
When you hugged me before, you suddenly became tense. What was that?
Sorry, it's just parties.
At the moment when Innie Mark and Ms. Cobell are talking at the party, and she doesn't know that it's Innie Mark, but she's on the verge of figuring something out. She has a feeling.
Did you mean what you said before? About your plans?
Of course.
I remember saying to Patricia and Ben, we've got them at this point. If the audience is invested and is, liking the show, this is going to be such a fun moment, such an oh shit, oh my God moment.
I knew we wanted to have a moment during each person's story that they would see themselves in the mirror. And because I thought that was a really important moment for each character in the episode. They see themselves on the outside. Yeah, they've seen themselves in the mirror at work, but this is them seeing themselves in their world, in a world they've never been in. And I think it's really powerful when you can have the actors looking right at you.
Forgive me for the harm I have caused this world.
That was actually a last minute decision to put that into that scene, and I'm so glad it's there. It's the only piece of text that Helly R has memorized. So I love that she is kind of reclaiming it as a rally cry that's prepping her to go and basically hold herself accountable for her actions as Helena.
For Trammell, it's very enclosed and it's a little claustrophobic. For Milchek, it's his territory, man. This is where he shines. This is his spot. It is his dominion. And Milchek reigns. Milchek knows these people. He knows their weaknesses and he knows their strengths. So when he's throwing out his aces and it's not working, I think it makes Milchek nervous.
I can get you any perk you want, Dylan. Hey, there's stuff you don't even know about. There's paintball. There's coffee cozies. Dylan, come on.
He's willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done. Now, whether or not what he's saying is true, that's the fun about it. I mean, there's definitely coffee cozies. I am pretty sure.
Just say the word and I'll get you a coffee cozy literally right now, Dylan.
You know, he has to dig more and find, okay, you know, the coffee cozies, that's not working. Okay, so what is it going to take for me to distract him while I get through this door and also to get him back on my side? I had talked to Ben, I said, where did this come from? Like, it just all of a sudden, just like, pop. I think that's also part of his arsenal. I don't think he's ever had to use it on anybody. You know, I don't think it's that level of violence, but you know, if there's things that just need to be cut or maneuvered or switched around, I think he just has a utility tool, you know, on hand just in case.
We're prisoners! She's alive!
We shot it a lot. We ended up doing it a bunch of times because we had to get me running down the hallway and then running towards the camera and stuff. And it was important to get it right. I'm glad we got to do it a bunch of times because it is a specific kind of outrage and terror. It's always like this quasi-embarrassing process. Like if you're in a bar or a party or a restaurant on a show, everyone, all the background actors and everyone has to be super quiet and you have to raise your voice up. But with this, it was that kind of cranked up to 11 because I was screaming bloody murder in a silent house because we were keeping everything as quiet as possible. Because I think for any Mark, as much as his view and relationship with this company has changed over the first season, this is a step he never imagined they would take. It all comes crumbling down. Seeing this photo is more than he would have ever imagined.
Here we are, and it's the finale, so we think, okay, we're going to get some answers. And we don't. I mean, we get a couple. We're still confused. I'm still complexed and still want to know more. And I think that's the success of this show. It's captivating. It brings people in without giving too much. And you always want to come back for more.
I felt that there never was any question in terms of how the season was going to end, that it had to end on some sort of a cliffhanger, but hopefully one that people would feel by the end of the episode that they had enough answers to certain things. But I knew that answering the question of what was going on, what the numbers meant, and all those things was too much to do in the first season. I remember thinking before we were renewed, it's like, all right, well, if it is a one season show, it'll be a really interesting one season show that people will always wonder what happened. And someday they might, ask for another season if they don't renew it.